Hi, Shea Hulse here. If you don't know me, I am a wife and mom of two, and I help entrepreneurial women master their mindset and build a successful online business without sacrificing time with their loved ones so they can live their dream life. And this week, I want to talk to you about the top spirituality secret that nobody talks about that you really need to master today to live your best life. So as we're getting into today's topic, you will notice something different in my background of my video, and that is just the little bit of my dream catcher over there peeking out. And I don't know, something about it being there. I usually crop it out of the view, but this time I said, you know what, I talk about spiritual things, and that is a spiritual thing, and so I just thought that I should include it in my video today. And so I hope that you enjoy my little dream catcher over there. I hope that you have a dream catcher of your own. I think that it's important to believe in certain things like that, and that's kind of what I'm going to talk about today. So if you find some value in this video today, please like and share this video. Share this with somebody that you know would find some value in it as well. And be sure to subscribe for more of my videos. So the dream catcher, I know it's such a silly thing. And, you know, I've talked about crystals, and I've talked about, you know, the different smells, essential oils, things like that. But the difference being, I think, particularly is that with the essential oils, there's actual brain chemistry that we've been able to research and identify and analyze and things like that. But when it comes to something like a dream catcher or crystals, it's really just kind of your belief. And so I have talked about like the placebo effect in terms of, you know, why I think that they work, and how just sometimes believing that they work will make them work, right? But I want to just talk a little bit more about that today, because that's really the top secret, is spirituality, and what is spirituality versus, you know, what is religion versus what is scientific facts. So you know that I am very spiritual, obviously, but you may not know that I'm also very practical, logical, and things like that. And so you might wonder, like, how do those two things marry up? I love science, I love facts, I love things like that. But the real fact of the matter is that we can't explain everything that we see. And there's a ton more things that science has not been able to identify, discover. We don't even know that there's things that exist out there, right? And so I think that spirituality is just, yeah, believing in those things we still don't know about yet. Those things that we've not been able to discover yet. And so when you're thinking about how you want to live your life, how you think things should go, how you think you need to control everything, I just want to encourage you to just let all that go. Okay? Just let it all go. And just embrace that you don't know anything, right? I know it sounds a little silly, but as my favorite spiritual leader says, Gabby Bernstein, when you think you've surrendered, surrender more. And so we're just going to talk a lot more about what is surrendering and how you can surrender and just believe that there is more in the universe. So I mentioned that I am a wife and mom of two. I was not always that way, of course. And a few years back, I guess, well, I've been with my husband about 6 years now. We have known each other, I think, over 8 years now. So to basically tell you my age, I met my husband, I think, when I was just 20. And at that point in my life, and at that point in his life, we were in very negative mindsets, and we were in very just unhappy places in our lives, spiritually, mentally, physically. And we made the decision after 2 years of being together to get sober. And so we have 4 years of recovery under our belt. And so that's what I want to talk about a little bit, is who we were versus who we are now, and how we got there, and some of those things that we kind of fell into along the way. So when we were both in our crazy world that we were in at that point in our lives, it was just a lot of negativity, and I think that it was a lot of trying to live a life that was not meant for us, along with plenty of other stuff. I mean, everyone has skeletons, right? But at that point, I think it was a lot to do with, we were told we should do this, go to college, you know, then get a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a significant other, then you have to, you know, get a little apartment together, and then you can get engaged, and then you can get a house, and then you can get... And so my husband and myself, I guess, really didn't care for the way we were being told that we had to live our lives, right? So that, I think, led to a lot of our issues, was just that we were trying to do things the way that everyone wanted us to do them, but we just couldn't. We didn't fit in the box, right? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about, you know, Dr. Wayne Dyer. He talks about this a lot in his book, Excuses Be Gone. And it's mind viruses. So these different mind viruses that we were being led to believe we had to be or do or think were just a lot of conditioning that I think everybody has. Everybody's been told by their parents they have to do this or do that. And your parents probably feel the same way too. And so I hope that in your personal growth journey, you identify the things that resonate with you, and you identify the things that don't resonate with you, and you just get rid of those things that maybe are not serving you and your highest power. Okay? So when we decided to get sober, you know, again, everybody has skeletons, so on and so forth. But when you go into some of those rooms, they just talk about believing in a higher power, believing in a power that is higher than you. What is it? A higher power of your own understanding. There you go. That's the right terminology that I was looking for. And so when you're talking about a spirituality secret that nobody really talks about, that you really need to master, it's just kind of surrendering. You know, a higher power of your own understanding is very open and very closed at the same time. You know, I think you can be religious, you can be spiritual without being religious, but you really can't be religious without being spiritual, right? And so when you're talking about a higher power of your own understanding, that is God, that is the universe, that is Allah, that is I don't know, all the other ones, Krishna, whoever, Buddha, whoever and whatever you choose to believe in. Just a higher power of your own understanding, right? So how I kind of have been raised is important in this conversation, because I was raised in a very Catholic homes where both of my parents kind of got out of their Catholicism, their training as kids, right? I'm Irish and I'm Italian, so both came from very Catholic families. And when I was raised, though, they kind of went away with it, which was fine. But I always had an understanding, or I always had a strong desire to learn more about religion. And I didn't realize all of the ways that I was already being super religious, I would say, or super spiritual, right? So how is this kind of connecting to what the moral of the story is? I'm going to get there, okay? It's sort of a long story, but it's going to make so much sense. So when I was younger, you know, I always believed in, you know, listening for the signs that were all around you, you know, believing in this meaning something or that meaning something, particularly those things that are out of the ordinary, right? And so as I grew older, I grew further into those beliefs, but I was still very negative and still very upset. But what I always told the universe is, if you show me the number 13, I will know that this is good. If you show me the number 12, I will know that it is bad. And that was just my little understanding with the universe. And sometimes I would have different signs. I would ask for different signs from the universe. And, you know, during the most difficult points of my life, I used to love watching a show called Supernatural, which I talk about all the time. But it's just because it's such... It has so weirdly become a huge part of my life, right? It just was one of those things that the universe kept bringing me back to, and so that's why it's relevant to this story. So I would use I used to watch this show, Supernatural, growing up, especially during the most difficult times of my life. And it wasn't until I was older and I was sober at this point, and I fell back into difficult times with having 2 kids, the pandemic, family drama, and so on and so forth, that I started to get back into Supernatural. And at that point in my life, I was also getting further into my spiritual journey and my recovery journey. And that's where this all kind of culminates into a crazy story. So, Supernatural, spirituality, when you think you've surrendered, surrender some more. So during this most difficult time of my life, I spent over 10 years in the food and beverage industry. I was miserable the entire 10 years. I could not get out of that industry. I could not go any higher in that industry than I had already made it. At this point in my life, I had become a food and beverage manager. I was on, I believe this might have been with my second. I think this was with my daughter. So I had already gotten laid off at this point. So right after I had my son, they laid me off, which was a super classy move. But I was already pregnant with my second. So anyway, when my second was born, I remember I was listening to, at the time, Gabrielle Bernstein's book, Super Attractor. And in the book, she talks about having guardian angels, having spirit guides, having archangels. And so in the book, she's telling you to identify who and what in your life is your spirit guide, your guardian angels, and your archangels. And I already knew. I already knew, because as soon as she said spirit guides, I knew that it was my great grandmother on my maternal side and my grandfather on my father's side, because all throughout my life, I would always just have weird things that just, you're like, oh, okay, I know that's, Alwa. That's what we called my grandmother and great grandmother. And, oh, that's pop-up. Sometimes I would hear something or smell something, or something was out of the ordinary. And she asked you to say, who is your spirit guide, which I knew was St. Anthony. So St. Anthony for my family has always been so relevant and so prevalent. And it starts with the story of my great-great-grandmother used to pray to him when people would lose stuff. People would come to her and say, hey, I lost my wedding ring. Can you pray to St. Anthony for me? And she would, and they would always find it. And his number is 13. And so she was born on the 13th, and she died on the 13th. So it's really like crazy full circle kind of a thing. So I got married on the 13th. My brother also got married on the 13th. My parents got married on the 13th. We all are a little crazy about this number. And tomorrow's Friday the 13th. Isn't that something? And so I even have 13 tattooed on me, as does my husband. So this number is super important to the story, right? And then she asked me to name who my archangel was. And I immediately knew that it was Michael. And why did I know that it was Michael? So I knew that it was Michael because of Supernatural, because the character that I love, Dean, is the perfect vessel for Michael. And I know it's a silly little, show. I guess it's not really a silly little show. It made 15 seasons, and it was, the fan base is huge. People are nuts about this show. I am one of those people, apparently. And so, anyway, I didn't know until I started researching it that Michael's number is the number 12. So St. Anthony is 13 and Michael is 12. And so it's a little crazy to me that after doing it for 15 years, I finally learned that 12, Michael, the protector, his number is 12. So I used to pray to Michael and tell him to show me the number 12 to protect me from some path that I was on that was no good for me. And I would pray to St. Anthony, the saint of miracles and lost souls, lost things, to show me the number 13, to show me that I was on the right path. So that already blew my mind, right? Following me still? So then one night after I had had my daughter, I was up in the middle of the night with her, sitting on the couch. She was wide awake, I think, for some reason, which she does still randomly, even though she's 18 months now. And I still put on Supernatural when she wakes me up in the middle of the night and wants to just be awake for hours, because that's what kids are good for. And so we were on the couch in the middle of the night. I put on Supernatural, and it was the episode that Michael, you know, Dean is like Michael. It was the craziest thing. And I just knew that that was my sign from the universe that I was on the right path, right? And so the next episode, I think, that came on was season 13, episode 13. I mean, you can't, I have a picture of it. You can't like ask for clearer signs from the universe, right? And it was just, again, at that point in my life that I said, oh my goodness, you know, I guess I'm on the right path. I mean, hit me over the head with it. I was on the right path, right? And so you're probably still wondering, how is this relevant to spirituality and what you need to do to live your best life? And so that really is to surrender. Surrender, and then when you think you've surrendered, surrender more. So I even have the chills right now, but this is a topic that I don't talk about super often, but it's so relevant and so important in your spiritual practice, in your life, in everything, is that you need to surrender. And what does it mean to surrender? I mean, you know those times that you really want something, or things are just really not working out for you, or just you're at your lowest. I mean, I've been at some pretty lows before. That was one of them at that point in my life. That was one of those lows. I'm getting a little teary-eyed, but you just have to believe that there's more in the universe and there's more to life, and pray for those guidances from the universe. So what I'm talking about specifically is control. You have no control over life. You think that you do. You always think that you do, but you really kind of don't. So when you are in those times of struggle or in those times of triumph, just remember that the best way to control the outcome is to not control it at all, and to just have faith that you are headed towards the next best destination. So that is my top spirituality tip for you, is to release control. You can't control anything. The only person you can control is yourself. And even then, not all the time, right? Because there are definitely those times that you are just, oof, I get a little out of control sometimes. I don't know about you. But just remember to relax, let the universe handle it. Pray, ask, do a ritual, whatever it is that you want to do to the universe. Ask it for your guidance, ask it for your support, and just have faith that you are headed towards the next best destination. And so I hope that you found some value in this video today, and I hope that you know that, you know, even though my job laid me off, I am on a much better path than I have ever been in my entire life, and that is because I have surrendered and had faith and allowed the universe to guide me towards that next best step. So if you want some more help with your spiritual practice and your spiritual journey, please follow me for more, and be sure to grab my top 13 tips for mastering your mindset, that is filled with other techniques that Gabby has used, including diaphragmatic breathing, which was one of my videos from last week, EFT tapping, and so on and so forth. So I hope that you enjoyed this video today. If you did, please tell me what your favorite thing was. And I love you guys, and I will talk to you next week. Thanks. Bye.